Okay guys, so I said I was going to probably do a cook along with the apple stuffed pork chops. That's what I'm doing. I just have to say I had my first major fail. Well, it wasn't a major fail, but it was a fail during my prep on Sunday. So anybody that followed along and put these ingredients in a bag, the one that we did, I don't know if you remember, but I was putting my seasoning in a bag and then I switched it, the seasoning for the pork, I switched it into a container because it called for Dijon mustard and maple syrup. And so I didn't want to put that in a bag. Well, you all can take that whole thing and dump it because the maple syrup and the Dijon mustard are separate. Those we put on the pork at the end. So that did not need to be mixed with the spices. So I had to redo the spices. Luckily, it was such a small amount. It's not like it was a major waste of food. You guys, this is real life here. Things happen to the best of us. So, this is the first time I've tried this recipe, and I was doing it out of a book while I was trying to film. So, everything else I think we're good on. So, it's still going to be good. I can't wait to try it. If you are new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure to click the notification bell so that you're notified anytime that I upload new content. And welcome. My name is Christy, and I am Planning Us Healthy. So I'm going to just go over what is in that for anybody that didn't follow that. If you're just here for this cook along, what you need for this recipe is the recipe actually is from the Skinny Taste Air Fryer Cookbook, and I do have that link down below in the Amazon links. In the recipe it is making 4 portions, but for me I just made 2. So I have 2 center cut loin pork chops. The recipe actually calls for bone-in, but I'm using boneless. For the pork seasoning, you are going to need, for 2 portions, is in this bag is half a teaspoon of kosher salt. I actually used regular salt. A quarter of a teaspoon of dried sage, a quarter of a teaspoon of garlic powder, an eighth of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, an eighth of a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, an eighth of a teaspoon of paprika, and then just a little bit of black pepper. And that is going to be for the topping for the pork. And then we're going to also add later to the recipe 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard mixed with 1 teaspoon of pure maple syrup. For the apple stuffing, we're going to need half of an apple, a quarter of an onion, the celery, which says quarter of a cup, but actually it'll probably be about an eighth of a cup. You need a quarter of a teaspoon of salt, a quarter of a teaspoon of sage, quarter of a teaspoon of garlic powder, eighth of a teaspoon of cinnamon, and an eighth of a teaspoon of nutmeg. That is what we need for the ingredients. So I will show you how we put this together. So the first thing we want to do is pound the pork. And we want to get it till it's about 3/4 of an inch thick, which on mine, I'm going to have to go just down a little bit. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is just take the pork chop and cut pockets into them. So it's a nice deep pocket, and just make sure you don't come through the edge. So what I usually do is just put it down. Let me see if I can turn this around so you can see. And I just go ahead and hold it down while I cut. And I just make sure not to cut through, and then I just kind of just open that pocket. All right, then we're going to take our seasoning, the correct seasoning, and we're going to go ahead and season the inside and outside of these. I'm just going to put a little bit of each on each one and kind of rub that around. Put some inside. now I'm going to go wash my hands and then I will show you what we do to cook the stuffing. Okay, so I have about 1/4 tablespoon of light butter in there. The recipe actually calls for 1/2 tablespoon, but that was for the 4 portions. And then I have 1/2 an apple, 1/4 an onion, and about 1/8 tablespoon, or 1/8 cup of celery. And then our seasoning that we have put together for the stuffing. I'm going to dump that all in there. And just give it a stir. And I have it on medium-high heat. Alright, so I have it pretty much all mixed up. So now I'm going to cover it and let it cook for about 15 minutes. I'm going to just keep stirring it occasionally while it's cooking. And then in the meantime, when I have about 5 minutes left, I will preheat my air fryer to 400 degrees. Alright guys, so our stuffing is done. So I've just portioned it. I don't know if you can see that. So I just portioned it into 2. And now we're just going to go ahead and spoon that right into the pork chops. And it actually didn't take 15 minutes. They softened up pretty good. All right, so we got those stuffed. So I have my air fryer basket sprayed, and I'm just gonna add the pork chops to the basket. And then I'm gonna put it in, I had this preheated to 400 degrees, so I'm gonna put it back in for 400 degrees, and I'm just going to do it for about 3 minutes, and then I'll show you what we do next. So for tonight, I am going really easy, and I am just pairing the pork chops with the Bob Evans garlic mashed potatoes. These are actually 5 points for 1/2 cup, or you can have 1/4 cup is 2 points, or 1/3 cup is 3. So I'm going to do 1/3 cup. And then I am going to have some microwave baby Brussels sprouts. And of course these are 0. I'm going to put 1/8 cup of Velveeta shreds on it for 1 point. Alright, so we've had the pork chops in the air fryer for about 3 minutes. Now we have to flip them over. And then we're going to go ahead and put the topping on there and just brush that on. And then we're going to put it back in the air fryer for about 3 to 4 minutes. Alright guys, so this is what it looks like. Can't really see that. Let's see if I can get it in the light. Oh, it looks so good. So that is 6 points. I have 3 points worth of potatoes and 1 point for the cheese on my Brussels sprouts. So this is a 10-point dinner, and it looks so good. So you guys, we just got done eating, and that was so delicious. We both absolutely loved it. The flavors of it went really good together, and it was just like you could taste the cinnamon and the apple with it, and combined with the pork. I'm not one that, like, I don't usually care for fruit in my meat, but this was definitely good. In fact, when my husband asked what we were having for dinner tonight, and I told him stuffed pork chops, he's thinking of back years ago when I used to make them like with mounds of cheese in it and all the ooey gooey stuff. So when I said it, he's like, oh yeah, because he's figuring that I came up with a really low point way. And then I said, well, it's stuffed with apples and onions. And he's kind of like, oh. But he really liked it, so that's a good thing. I was going to make him get on here and do a review, and he was going to, but then my phone died, so maybe next time. Again, I thank everybody for your support, and I will talk to you all in my next video. I am Christy, and I am planning us healthy.